Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Yeonni, and for today's videos, as you can see from the title below, above, wherever it is now these days, I will be sitting down to answer some of your Instagram questions. A week ago, I asked you guys on my Instagram to please send me whatever questions you have regarding social work, mental health, about me, my cats, whatever you may have questions about, and you guys sent in some really exciting and interesting questions, so I wanted to do these kinds of Q&As more often. That way you guys have a chance to ask me any questions you might have about any of the content that I upload here on YouTube. So if you're not following me on Instagram, please make sure to follow me right here. It's the same handle as my YouTube name, so it should be easy to find. I'm pretty much on Instagram every day. You guys can DM me, we talk a lot, I upload a lot of pictures of my cats. It's a fun time over there. So with all that said, let me pull up the questions that I collected from you guys. I screenshot all of them, and then we can get into the Q&A. The first question is asked by Noor Pori, and she asks, how do you know when a therapist is right for you? Context, I've tried so many and don't feel any breakthroughs. I'm sorry, first of all, that you feel that way. I know it can get really hard trying to find like the right therapist. I think it's a question that unfortunately doesn't have like a straightforward answer, but to kind of try to answer it, you would know when a therapist is right for you when you feel safe talking to them, to be able to share the things that you have going on in your life that you feel not as comfortable maybe sharing with other people in your life. Many times finding a therapist takes some work, and it can take time, and I know that can be discouraging when you really just need to connect with that person and just let those things off your chest. But I would say even if your first session with someone and even your second session with someone doesn't like lead to these huge breakthroughs that you've been looking for, give your therapist a chance. Of course, as long as there aren't like red flags, right? Red flags in a therapist is they're unprofessional in any way. They could be unethical, they could be rude or mean. Those are definitely red flags. It might take some time, but try to give your therapist more than 1 or 2 sessions to see if it'll work out, because some people do have breakthroughs right away from the first initial sessions, and that's great. But some people, it takes a little bit of work and time to build up that relationship with the therapist. I've had clients in the past that have called me terrible names when we first started. They hated me, but then in like the 10-12 months, like 1 year that we've worked together, we built up this mutual respect and trust in this therapeutic relationship, and we were able to have those breakthroughs. So remain patient, vigilant, and I know it can be really difficult, but don't give up, because there are right therapists for you out there. Just make sure to give them a chance and give that therapeutic relationship a chance to grow. Levy Vivian has asked 3 different questions. Awesome, thank you. First one is, how do you balance work, YouTube, and your personal life? Oh, that's a hard one. When I first started working as a social worker, it was really hard for me to leave certain like stories at work. And what I mean by that is when you're a social worker, you're exposed to a lot of other people's trauma and a lot of other people's really terrible stories of things that they're going through. And I realized that even when I got home, I was unable to relax or rest. I was feeling a lot of anxiety, and it's because I was carrying these stories around with me everywhere. So actually my first supervisor at the time gave me this kind of like a meditation sort of a skill, where when I log out of my computer, when I close the door behind me of my office door, when I leave my building, I kind of intentionally, mentally make like a visual note of just leaving everything at work. That way when I'm at home, I can focus on other things, and that skill took some time to develop, but has definitely helped me to balance, at least work-life balance. And when it comes to YouTube, coming into that, usually I try to film videos whenever I can. I'm still honestly trying to figure out the schedule thing, especially because right now I'm applying to graduate school. So during the evenings after my 9-to-5 job, I am working on my personal statements and trying to apply to graduate school. I'm freaking out on these graduate forums. So right now is not the best time to ask me that, because I'm doing it terribly. Usually though, when things were normal, when I was still working as a social worker, not applying to graduate school, I tried to film on the weekends and upload on the weekends. That way I don't have to like pressure myself to be like, I have to film a video after I had a long day of work. So my weekends, I tried to block off time to dedicate to filming, editing, and uploading a video, but I'm still working on it. It's not easy, that's for sure. How many kids do you want in the future? I would like to have 1 kid. Even that, I went back and forth quite a lot. Just, I think my line of work and my interests in society have exposed me to a lot of just terrible things in this world, and it made me question, do I really want to bring like an innocent little human being into this world? But I believe I do. I feel like I would deeply regret not getting to experience being a mother, because that in itself is a privilege. Like, a lot of people think pregnancy is just like, oh, just get pregnant. Are you pregnant yet? You know, a lot of Asian aunties like to ask those things very flagrantly, but many women struggle with pregnancy. So honestly, I've been really kind of humbled as I grow older, being like, becoming a mother is a privilege. Being able to have a family and children is such a blessing. So I would like to have one child and throw all of my love into her. I'm putting it out there. I would like a daughter. I'm having a daughter. And so one daughter and many animals. That's my dream house. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Do you wish to become an entrepreneur in the future? I'm not closing any doors before it happens. Who knows? I would like to maybe one day open a cat cafe. That is a huge side project that I've had on my bucket list for like the longest time. We'll see if I have the time to be able to do that, because opening a business is a lot of work and dedication and time. Cute Like Candy asks, have you ever considered working at shelters? I have considered working in shelters. I feel like the opportunity never really came across. That's something you realize, I think, as an adult. After your first job, you gather experiences in certain elements of your field. So when you look for other jobs, you end up kind of finding similar jobs. My first job was working at a dual diagnosis outpatient setting, working with patients struggling with mental illnesses and substance use disorders. So my job progression and careers have kind of stayed in that element, where I worked in that center in New York. In San Francisco, I also worked in like a dual diagnosis women's recovery outpatient clinic. Right now I'm doing research working with participants struggling with mental illnesses and substance use disorders. So it's just kind of in that realm. What other fields aside from research can one apply their social work skills? I really believe that social work school and being a social worker has given me like life-changing lessons that can be applicable anywhere. Like, some things you learn as a social worker, at least for me, that I learned is, maybe it's any field, to be honest, I'm not sure, but for me in social work, you need to have and hone infinite patience when it comes to working with clients, being patient with society and the bureaucracy and the fact that like the world is so there's so much inequality, injustice, inequity in the world, and having to face that every single day at work. It can be really difficult. So patience, balance, mental health, and self-care, these are all skills that are highly applicable anywhere else. Documentation is a huge thing that social workers do. We need to have proper on-time documentation done. Usually, depending on your agency, there's different like time periods where you need to get certain documents done. Like if you saw your patient on Monday, you need to get your document in by like Wednesday or within the week of when you saw them. It all depends on the agency that you work in and what the insurance agencies want from you. So all that to say, you get very good at time management, being good with documentation, and I definitely believe those are skills that you could use really anywhere. So I've seen social workers work in human resources. I've seen social workers become psychologists and work in psychology. I've seen social workers just work in the general, nuts and bolts of corporate world, and they always say that their social work skills have come to really help them and give them like a broader perspective on how to work with people. I am biased, but many skills as a social worker that you can work elsewhere. What are some careers out there related to social work? There are like therapists, and then therapists can come from lots of different educational backgrounds. So there can be social worker therapists, there can be licensed marriage and family therapists, there can be LPCCs, licensed professional counseling persons. I don't exactly remember what those are. Maybe it's just LPC. But there's lots of different letters after everyone's names that are therapists. A lot of what that means is pretty much they've had different theoretical backgrounds when it comes to their education, but they are all therapists. And there's a lot of overlap, but there's also slight different things. I took an art therapy course once when I was at NYU, and it was an interesting course, not because art therapy is really fascinating to me, but because it was a course that was held jointly between the School of Social Work and the Master's Mental Health Counseling program from the psychology department at NYU. And it was so interesting to see that one way I could put it is like everyone's on the same page, but like social workers, like we're looking at one paragraph as emphasis, and then the mental health counseling master's degree students were looking at a different paragraph for emphasis. So that was fascinating. Like, we're all doing the same thing, but our theoretical backgrounds and values are slightly different. So there's that. What personality skills do you need to develop when it comes to social work? So I would say my skills that I developed when it came to social work is, like I mentioned, a lot of patience, a lot of self-care. Like, taking care of your own mental health is part of your job, because imagine you're doing therapy and talking about really, really triggering and intimate and sensitive topics with your patients. If you are not right here, it is extremely difficult to be fully present and be available and helpful to your patient. After I learned that early on, I'm very good with making sure to take care of myself, whether it's obviously being good with my work-life balance or just doing things that I love. I love food, so I go out and eat yummy food. I love to read, so I make sure on the weekends, like, I plan like a good weekend to have fun. Just little things that bring me joy, so that is really important. So little skills like that. Martha G asks, I've been getting into luxury bags. Which do you recommend? I've been eyeing the Givenchy Antigona. And when I saw this, I got really excited because I also really love designer bags. I think it's been like 4 or 5 years since I started really getting into like designer handbags, and that kind of coincided with my interest in kind of shopping a little more consciously, in a way where I'm not just buying everything I want, and kind of thinking about the quality, the value, the longevity of the things that I'm buying. But getting into designer bags, because they're very, very expensive, has helped me to be better with budgeting. And I'm never buying something instead of like paying for rent. I'm never, there's different pools where you put your money. So it's been fun to save up little by little every month, and maybe once a year or once every few years, I can take some time to get something to treat myself. So you mentioned the Givenchy Antigona. I actually have that bag, so one second. Alrighty, so here she is. This is my Givenchy Antigona, and it's special because I had saved up for like 3+ years for this bag. I knew I wanted to get it for myself when something big happened in my life, so I got into grad school and I was like, okay, when I graduate, I'm gonna get this bag. So I had money saved up, but when my dad heard that I wanted this bag and we happened to see it, and then I was like, oh, that's the bag that I've been saving up for. I think maybe I'll get it today. And then I was totally willing to pay for it myself because I saved up for it. But then my dad, it was so cool. He like flung out his credit card. He's like, I got you. So he got it for me, and he kind of had a little mini like, oh my God, when he saw how much it was. But he kind of stuck it through and still wanted to get it for me. So very special. I love this bag. Highly practical. I've had this for 3 years now. And the first 1.5 years that I had this bag, I used it to death. I would stick my school books in here. On the weekends, I stick my laptop and iPads in here. And you fit so much in here. It's like a black hole. That's one thing that people say they don't really enjoy about the bag, but you can get like an organizer. I don't mind really digging around for things. It's no big deal. But the leather is super sturdy, and I do think it's such a classic design. For a designer bag, it's pretty like minimal in design. If you don't like the logo showing, you can always just flip it around like this and wear it. And it also comes with a strap, so highly versatile if you need your hands to use. I highly recommend it if you have the funds and means to get a bag for yourself, and if you would like this one, I would recommend it as a staple bag in your collection. King Sephiroth asks, what is it like owning a kitty? Should I get one? Owning a kitty is the best decision I've ever made in my life. I always knew I wanted cats myself because I grew up with cats. My mom actually has 4 cats right now, and they are so cute. They are like these dopamine, serotonin boosts that I need on days that are really, really difficult for me. So they're really good for my mental health. They're like my emotional support animals. They're so cute. And something about taking care of living things, there's a lot of responsibilities that come with that, and it's just been really awesome and just natural for me. So I love my cats. They're literally my everything. I saw this meme of like, I work hard so my cats can have a good life. It's not even a meme, that's reality for me. Should you get one? It depends. Are you in a place like financially and like where you live environmentally where you can take care of an animal? And if you can, and if you feel up to the responsibilities of owning a pet, I'd say go for it. I'm clearly biased because I have 2 cats. But yeah, if you think you can take care of one, if you want to take care of one, if you're willing to take care of one, and you want one, go for it. Artsy Van Gogh asks, I recently learned about a PhD in social work. Have you considered applying to those programs as well? He also asks, I don't know the main difference between a DSW and a PhD in psych, but I feel like they overlap a lot. Just to keep it simple and short, there is a lot of overlap, but I chose to apply to counseling psychology PhD programs and clinical psychology PhD programs because that just better aligns with my long-term career goals. A PhD in social work is similar in the sense that it's like a research-oriented degree for social workers. And interestingly, a DSW that you mentioned is different from a PhD in social work. So I know it's so complicated. Maybe this is a whole nother video topic for you guys because it took me a while to figure this out myself. DSW is a doctorate in social work. PhD in social work is a doctor of philosophy in social work, which is actually different. So simply put, DSW is more focused on clinical assessments, so clinical aspect of being a social worker where you're doing like the therapy part essentially, and like the diagnosis and therapy and intervention part. A PhD in social work, it's a lot more research focused, where you'll be doing like maybe community research. I actually have a PhD in social work person on my team who is a community researcher. I would highly recommend trying to do some research on each and every one because they are different, but there is a lot of overlap. Best of luck, and if you would like, I think maybe I'll just make a separate video on that too. Amanda4 asks, how are you coping with COVID? I'm coping the best I can. That's such a loaded question, Amanda. It's hard. I have a lot of empathy for people, so I feel other people's pain. So every day when there's notifications of people like dying from COVID, losing family members, losing jobs, not being able to pay rent, but the rent moratorium is canceled, like all of these layers of just distress experienced by people in society, exacerbated by the already existing inequality and injustice in our society, I feel a lot. And I feel extremely privileged and blessed to live the life that I live during this time. But also I feel really guilty sometimes because I feel like I could do more just as an individual. But then the other part of me is like, I'm just one person, what can I do? I wish I could just eradicate COVID from the world. Like I would if I could. But I've been coping the best I can. Daisy Sailing asked, pet advice needed. If I'm going on a trip and I leave the pet with a friend, what are some important points? I don't want to be insensitive to them, so some tips for leaving pets with friends would be really helpful. I think that's what you meant. I don't know if you mean insensitive to the friend or to the pets. If you mean being insensitive to the friend, I think if they're your friend, they wouldn't mind watching your pets for you. Just be sure to thank them, make things easier for them, give them like instructions on what is expected from them. Maybe buy them a meal when you come back or give them like a nice like Amazon gift card if you'd like. But if they're a friend, I don't think they would feel like it's insensitive. And when it comes to your pets, it is sad because it's hard to like make them really understand like why you're leaving and you're not leaving forever, you know? But, you know, make sure they have enough food and water while you're gone. And when you come back, just give them lots of love and kisses and snacks, and I'm sure they'll be fine. Blue Star asks, how to keep up with physical health when you're stuck at home? Girl, I don't know. I don't know. All right, my camera just died, which means I really am going to split this video into 2 parts because this is getting very long. But just to finish up Blue Star's question, how to keep up with physical health when you're stuck at home? It's really hard. I do have a gym in my building, but still COVID, and I know everyone's supposed to wear masks, but the heavy breathing in a small enclosed environment during a pandemic just doesn't, I don't feel safe personally, so I don't go to that gym. I've been trying to do just like free YouTube workouts, but our apartment is pretty tiny, so it's been difficult to do that. So part of physical health isn't just exercise, it's a good diet. So like on days where I know that the day before I've had a really terrible meal, I try to kind of go light on my meals, have like acai bowls, smoothies, make lighter meals like sandwiches, try to eat greens, try to buy fruit. I feel inclined to always snack on terrible things because I'm stressed a lot. We do the best we can. But we are in a global pandemic, so please be kind to yourself. You gain weight, you lose weight, you gain muscle mass, you lose muscle mass. It's part of life. That's it for today's part 1 of the Q&A. Thank you so much for all your awesome questions. I could spend hours answering all of them because it's just fun to talk about these different topics. That's it for today's video. If you like these kinds of Q&As, please make sure to thumbs up this video. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves emotionally, physically, mentally, in all of those beautiful ways. Please be kind to yourselves during this time. It is wild. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the very next video, which I hope will be the part 2 of this Q&A because there's still some really good questions that I need to get answered. So, all right, bye.